you all for coming. I'm actually the section head for Oceans, so we'll call out Rick Murray in the back as the NSF Oceans Division Director, and there are several NSF folks here. So please, as we move forward and with questions, I may draw on my compatriots to help out. I am going to tell you about the agency perspective. I want to take sort of a high-level view. Our decadal survey of ocean sciences, some of the authors certainly in this room, has been a real guiding document for us, but certainly we are a bottom-up driven agency, so we respond to the proposal pressure, but we listen to the community input. So this decadal survey, the Sea Change report, as I'm going to call it, really has been a very recent and a very significant driver for those important science questions, as well as some advice about our budget balance between logistics and research. So I am going to start with the science priorities. The Sea Change, esteemed Sea Change group came back with essentially 8 science questions. They are not in order of priorities. They're actually structured from the surface with sea level rise, which we've already heard about this morning, down to the deep ocean. So that you see there are several questions that really are specifically needing to be asked within the deep sea. So plenty of room within the NSF science portfolio for those good science questions to be asked to respond to what Sea Change has recommended. I asked Dave Garrison, who's the lead program officer for biological oceanography, to actually do a breakdown for me. And BioOcean probably is the one program within NSF that contributes the least amount of funding to the deep sea. And what you see is that, in fact, 22% of the funding, which is the same amount as what's being put in the shelf seas, has been dedicated to observing, asking science questions in the deep sea for the last 3 years. So this is BioOcean awards from fiscal year 13 to fiscal year 15. We took a broader look because each year can have some spikes and balances, and each color is a different environment where we have actually made awards. So the deep ocean, let's see, do I have a pointer? Oh, no. It's the center one, okay. So let me go, there we go, perfect. So this is actually the chunk of spending that BioOcean has done within the deep sea, and right next to it is the vents. So in fact, if you add up the vents and the deep sea proper, about 25% of our funding in biological oceanography has been directed for those universities to ask questions about the deep sea. Informal discussions with the other lead program officers, at least 50% of the funding probably in the last few years has been directed towards deep sea questions, with the highest number being the MG&G folks, who estimated that they're probably using up to 80% of their budget to fund work within the deep sea. Okay, I will briefly touch on the other aspect of Sea Change. All of the money that we get at NSF or within OCE is going towards research and research-related activities. So it's a single pot funding our logistics as well as funding our science questions. And in 2014, actually 2013, we actually transitioned from essentially spending about half of our money on infrastructure to support science and half of our money to supporting the core science, so the awards we're making to universities to do the actual science. So the community, via the Sea Change report, alerted us that we've crossed a transition where facilities funding is actually taking up more of our joint budget than the science funding. So raising the call of alarm. I will say that quite a bit of the investments that were made that have driven up the facilities funding were made in periods where we were pretty optimistic that we were going to be seeing increasing budgets. And of course, now flat is the new doubling in some worlds. So we really need to be working at a level where we're looking at constrained budgets. And that is what the Sea Change Committee did. They said, let's look at our 2014 dollars, and we recommend that you get to a 50-50 parity. It turns out that in 2015, we were able to get to the 2050 or to the 50-50 parity number. Fuel prices certainly helped us out there, as well as some fleet retirements. In 16, we're going to have facilities be slightly ahead again, and we have new ships coming on board. So we have both the Ride and the Armstrong that are now coming into the fleet. But by 2018, we will be at our parity, and we intend to remain at our parity. And again, the assumption is that this is a flat funding scenario, which maybe someday will not be an assumption we have to make. This is probably one of my favorite figures, combining both the science questions and actually the spending questions. So what the committee did is they went back and said, okay, NSF, here are all the different types of facilities that you support, from ships to field stations. And for deep sea, certainly our vehicles, so our AUVs, our manned vehicles, and our ROVs. And they asked which questions were being answered of those priority science questions by the different types of facilities investments that we're making. So sort of the good side, you want to be over here for higher relevance. You're answering more of the science questions, and we can't ignore the cost questions. So sort of, I don't know if this is the best box to be in, but certainly you want to be over on the higher side, and low cost is a plus. And you do see our manned vehicles, ROVs, AUVs have a lot of relevance, and the committee said basically keep funding those NSF. So Brian Midson in the back is the program officer for National Deep Submergence Facility, run out of Woods Hole. I apologize, I had other logos, but when I switched the background, the logos went away. So I'll try and call out appropriate folks as we go along. We have Alvin, 50 years old, and Brian tells me that no longer any original parts, so it's a brand new vehicle after 50 years. We have Jason, our remotely operated vehicle, which can get down to the deeper location, 6,500 meters, and Sentry, our autonomous vehicle, which is also 6,500 meters. And this is a shot of the Woods Hole team, the Deep Submergence Lab, supporting all 3 vehicles. So these are the guys that make these resources available to the science community. And this is a facility. You request these vehicles like you request ships. So lots of capability there. And just a quick mention of 2 others. Nereus is no longer with us, but we do have the Nereid hybrid tether and the Nereid under ice versions, and those can take you to about 2,500 meters each. There has been another really powerful workshop as a result of sea change and some other advice we've gotten. It was time to sort of ask for a refresh of the science questions that are driving our investments in the vehicles to explore the deep sea. So there was a very important Descend 2 workshop held in January. The website is up, and the workshop report should be out soon. Okay, Brian's telling me soon. So again, a refresh of the science questions. Are our investments appropriate to support the science questions for the future in the deep sea? And I will call out one other thing. We're going to turn to observatories now. We are making about a $2.5 million investment in Jason so that Jason can be supporting our Oceans Observatories initiative. This is a bandwagon that you've heard in pretty much every single talk so far. We need observations, and we can't just make them as snapshots. We need them for years to come. So this is a paper that at Ocean Sciences, I think got some attention by Stephanie Jensen out of the UK, the National Oceanographic Center over there. And she basically did calculations on how long do we have to make observations in different parts of the world's ocean in order to conclusively say that things are changing due to climate. And you probably can't see it over there, but we're going from the cool colors. That's a minimum of 20 years of observations in order to be able to say something about climate change in particular, to the warm colors of 40 to 50 years or more. And you guys have just heard about, for the deep sea, really having timescales that demand long-term observations. It has to respond to extreme events, but we have to be in the right place for a long period of time to understand how our ocean is changing. She also actually took all the observatories that are listed as part of the ocean sites and said, well, given that one observatory, which is making long-term measurements, how much of an area can we extrapolate those measurements to? And she broke it down for pH. We've been hearing about acidification quite a bit, nitrate export, primary production, and oxygen. And what you see, where's most of our deep sea? We don't have any observatories, okay? They're hard places to work, so we have a lot of white, which is the absence of observations, but we do have some sites where you see a point source here. This happens to be the Oceans Observatories Initiative Southern Ocean Mooring, and it has a pretty large footprint, so you can extrapolate geographically on these different parameters from the single observatory. So there are some sites that really are important to be making those observations at for the long term. So we want to alert everyone, if you're not already aware, to OOI, the Oceans Observatories Initiative. The prime awardee is Ocean Leadership, and there was a logo up here, but again, I apologize, that went away. We have the program manager. Where's Greg? Greg Alsis is the Ocean Leadership Program Manager. There's Greg, okay. Perfect timing, thanks Greg. So we have 7 essentially arrays out, and they are now actively observing. We have 4 global high latitude sites. So I've mentioned the Southern Ocean site. There's also an Argentine Basin site. Erminger Sea, very near our favorite OSNAP, and Station Papa, which has been certainly the site of lots of long-term measurements as well. We have 2 coastal arrays. We have the Endurance Array off the coast of Oregon and Washington, and the Pioneer Array off the East Coast. And we have the Cabled Array, which might be what a lot of you guys think about when you think of OOI, off the coast of Washington going out to Axial Seamount and the Juan de Fuca Ridge. OOI science themes have not actually been refreshed since about 2007, but you'll see actually a lot of overlap with the Sea Change Report and lots of relevance for the deep sea within the ways that OOI was designed, the science that OOI was designed to do, and obviously focuses on climate change, but also carbon cycling, ocean acidification, and ecosystem health. Okay, so regional scale node, I'll show a couple of pretty pictures courtesy of John Delaney. There was lots of technology developed in support of OOI, so we have nice crawling profilers. We actually have winch packages that are going to go up and give you your measurements in the sea surface. Quite a bit of capability in terms of visuals, and a lot of seismometers out in association with Axial. So there was a big workshop going on, and Axial Volcano cooperated. On April 24th, there was an eruption, and we were there to essentially observe it in real time. So all the seismometer data is available on the Irish website. And you can see these are actually the number of earthquakes in a 24-hour period, so just going off scale. So we are now in place to observe events in real time. My favorite critter, worms. Isn't it good with the red there? That is altered. Of course, it doesn't have red around its mouth, but that's actually a polychaete worm, and we have video cameras now. So 8 times a day, I think you can log into the data portal and observe these ecosystems. These are polychaetes that are chowing down on tube worms. So everybody was shocked when we found the tube worm communities. Remember, they're huge ecosystems, and there's lots of activity going on there, and those great alien-looking scale worms are trying to chow down on our tube worms. We have the coastal arrays, depending on how you define deep ocean. You might actually be interested in what's happening with the coastal arrays, many different types of vehicles and scales of observation, because we're doing AUVs and gliders and moorings. There's just a quick schematic, and we're down to about 500 meters for Pioneer Array, which is the lead scientist, Al Pluderman from Woods Hole. We have the Argentine Basin as an example of one of the global arrays. And this just gives you the status. We have gliders, both profiling and patrol gliders. We have moorings, both surface and deep. And in general, 95% of what we put out is actually now returning data. And this is the plug for the data portal. Our website, oceanobservatories.org, hosted by Ocean Leadership, of course. There's data available now, and there's more data coming by the day. So NSF, science first, lots of deep sea fits in with the science that we're already doing and that we have advice to continue to do. The deep submergence assets are available for everyone to draw on, and OOI data is coming more and more every day. Please go test out the sites and let us know your feedback on that. Thank you.